All right, you guys. I'm in Atlanta on my way to Dallas, and I didn't bring my extension thing, so this is very clumsy, I suppose. Um, uh, Jay Ingram responded to my video on MMTLP with a firm and I don't know what else to call it, a firm, GTII. And well, let me see what I can say about GTII. Number one, this stock has round tripped. That is a round trip. Many of you bought it at 20 cents. It ran to 9 cents in a massive run up. It hung around, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 even, for weeks, if not 2 or 3 months. I'd say 2 months. I wouldn't say 3. I can't remember. But then, as you know, everybody decided to go into COSM, and that company, COSM, successfully took about $35 million out of the market. So good on them, I guess. That sell-off was just the opening that the shorts needed, and they kept selling. Now, we as investors can watch the stock go up to 9 and think that it's going to go much, much higher and not get out and just hold on. And as it sells off, think, oh, it's got to go back up. Or you lighten up, you start selling some of the shares, you take your original money out of the market. And a lot of people did that. One guy, you don't need to read anything he writes. I tell you, the U.S. economy is booming if you base it on airports. There's shopping, there's people, it's so crowded, there's, you can barely turn around without bumping somebody else. There's money being spent, flights are full. Anyway, my flight, I guess, will go soon. So let me get back to this. What Jay and others, me included, I didn't sell up there. I wish I had. I'd spend a lot of time thinking, oh, darn it, I wish I had sold up there. But I didn't, because I bought into the idea that we were in the middle of a short squeeze. But what you got to realize is the markets are set up so that brokerage firms and big hedge funds sell stuff that doesn't exist. And we can wish it away, but it's what happens. They sell stuff that doesn't exist. So there's apologists out there, and I think the apologists are wrong. But on the other hand, you just don't know for sure. There's no attempt by the regulatory bodies to give investors full transparency in these markets. None. So people say, oh, you can't prove it. So what is it that you can't prove? According to Ham, there's 400 to 500 million shares short in GTII. Is that a provable thing? Do we know it? We can't 100% prove that. But I would also submit we can 100% disprove it. I don't want to run through all it's the same story over and over and over again. But there are there is evidence entered into court that a large naked short position is the reason for Alpine Holdings to be deficient. And the NASDAQ, FINRA, I guess it is, pushed for Alpine to be expelled. So what Alpine's done is this legal maneuvers. And so, look, if you're in GTII for a trade, there were plenty of times to trade it. I didn't take advantage of them. There even recently, over the last many months, I don't know how I could have been plainer. If I'd come out and said, sell, that might have crashed the stock. On the other hand, all along, all of us, every single one of us, is in this stock because we believe there's a potential for a short squeeze. So when you sell it, you run the risk of not being in it. But for these months, I don't know, I'd say August, September, I've been saying, or maybe right around September, I've been saying it's a great opportunity to sell some, buy it back in 31 days, and take your tax loss. And sure enough, I mean, look at it. I'll give you an example. As recently as January, February, you could have sold the stock for 40 cents and 45 cents. 31 days later, now you buy back at 20 cents. So you could double your position, or this airport is packed, or just take your money and establish your losses. Anyway, so what do we do now? I mean, going back over the past it doesn't change anything. What do we do now? The stock's at whatever it is, 20 cents, 18 cents. I personally have been trying to get my dividends free to trade for 90 days at least. And it leads me to believe, the last excuse I got from E-Trade was the company, the company did not timely file its, 10K. I said, what the heck does that have to do with anything? But that was the excuse they gave me, because they don't know. I'm checking. They had to assign a seat to me. I guess I got one. They don't know. The ones you're talking to, they don't know. But the firms are trying to hide the fact that they didn't have real shares. They didn't get enough dividends. But this is all allowed in the markets, and we can fight it or we adapt to it. So with GTII, the goal of the shorts is to drive it low, and that's not going to stop. GTII is essentially a shell company. For months, Jay, I have been saying, and you go back on my live, but let me just be as succinct as I can. GTII, in order for the company to show a forceful new direction that crushes the shorts, David Reichman either has to, somebody has to exercise the 24th Amendment, or he retires. And until then, I don't see the stock doing very much. There's another alternative, but I don't want to say it. This is Atlanta. Just look at all the people. Just look at them. The restaurants are full. Everything. Every plane is full. And we have an economy that's somehow in a recession. I'm not sure. I just think the metrics maybe have changed. All right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to end this so I can upload it. And I don't want to miss my seat. So anyway, Jay, what I think With the stock, I didn't look where it is, and I'm disappointed that it's down here. It's very painful. Um, Here's what you have to do with any stock, whether it's at $1, 50 cents, 40 cents, 20 cents. It can go down or it can go up. And so here's one thing you can think about. I'm going to sell it, take my losses, and buy something else that I think is going to rally. And there's a stock that begins with a letter at the end of the alphabet that I don't talk about anymore, but it's not because I don't think it's going to go up. It's just because I've been asked not to talk about it. And, so you could move the money and try to, I'll give you another one that's really boring. It's already up to 4 cents. But the shell logic, it's a shell, just like GTII. GTII had a business plan that made sense, but you now have a CEO who's the key to that business plan, who he's in a home. That's not true, but I'm trying to quote Don Rickles. Look, I'm a friend. I called the home. They're ready for you. All right, let me see if I can finish this. In other words, I don't see that any company is going to go incubate inside of GTII while the leadership at GTII is in their dotage. So anyway, on the other hand, there is this massive short. So if you get out of the stock, you run the risk of missing out on, a stock that goes to highs that make no sense whatsoever, simply because there's forced buy-in. I don't see that happening right now, Jay. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening now or anytime in the near future in GTII. The only surprise would be is if Alpine does go out of business, get expelled, and whoever the regulator is, I think it's the NSCC or whoever's taken over their book, buys them in. But I just don't, does it seem like that's happening? I don't see it. So maybe you can sell it even at low levels and go into another play. If you have studied it, don't just bounce around, and double your money, triple your money. Logic, for example, is a stock that could do that. At 4 cents, it could go to 8 cents. Once they announce their reverse merger, you double your money. That's as if right now GTII's, let's call it 20 cents. If you moved it over to something else and it doubled, it'd be as if GTI's at 40 cents. You come back and buy more shares. Well, anyway, that's what you could have done. My own opinion now is, yes, there's a lot of risk that it can go lower, but I think GTII is in a range where you just buy it. That's not a recommendation, and there are 2 or 3 other stocks I would buy before that, but if I have a winning trade, I'm going to add to my GTII position. Will it go lower? Maybe. But you can't. You do it as a trade, Jay. So when it rallies, you take your original money off the table. Now, I wanted to leave you with some hope. I have stayed close to these guys, and I'm 100% going to work with them, the Treno mining guys. One of the gentlemen has a really brilliant, forceful plan and has a strategy that could work, and that could happen. But Jay, if you're sitting watching GTII today and you want something to happen tomorrow, I don't see it. It could, And I think the time to sell was higher, although at any time in a stock, it can go lower. Um, somebody just asked the question, when does the dividend? I don't know if that's about which stock that's about. In the case of GTII, I think this restricted stock dividend is causing the street a problem. I really do. But anyway, Jay, I'm actually optimistic that the Treno Mine deal, let's call it that. It doesn't have to be that specific deal. But I think that approach can trap out the shorts. But I think control of the company needs to move to either this group deciding to implement that vision or some new people. So I gotta stop it there because I gotta get they're boarding my flight, and
that'll work. It makes sense. I did it all by myself.
I'll just, I guess, conclude, Jay, by saying that it's easy to look back, of course, and say, we should have sold. I didn't, it's hard to sell. It's the single hardest decision, the single hardest thing to do. But what can be done is taking your original money out, locking in some of the gains. And certainly when it's at 9, I can understand not selling because it feels like, okay, it's happening. But as it pulls back, and this is lessons for the future in other stocks, you got to say, anyway, now that it's round tripped, at any time a stock can go down big time or up. GTII is a shell. They've done everything on behalf of the shareholders. They've tried everything. The one thing that was working was the warrant as a special dividend. But we're a group of cats. We all wanted to go our different ways, and we didn't see it. And the shorts are focused like a laser beam. And their thing they focus on is selling. Just selling. FUD, selling. Because if you haven't accepted it, Wall Street does not enforce settlement, does not enforce the locate rules, does not police the borrowing rules that are supposed to be in. You're supposed to borrow stock beforehand, and they allow intraday, weekly, monthly, yearly failures to deliver and failures to settle. And that's just our life. And the Kramers and the Hurleys successfully, if you believe Ham, have sold 500 million shares in GTII that do not exist. And from their standpoint, hey, it's a shell. It's not worth anything. So, Jay, I actually think there is a way to bring in assets and to bring in cash flow. If I was in charge, if I was magically king of the world, I would bring in cash flow immediately. I know how to do it. I do it with real assets. I'd start buying back shares. I'd start paying dividends, and I would make life tough on the shorts. But you can hear them. They're starting to call us. So I'm going to sign off. I'll try to address GTII. But why? It's not alive. It's kind of dead money right now. It's kind of in the accumulate phase. If you're trying to trade to make a profit, I think other stocks you go make the profit and then you come back and you buy GTI if you want to. So let me leave it there. I'm not making any financial recommendations. My instinct, it could go lower, could go much lower, who knows? But my instinct is it's closer to a buying opportunity for a trade than not, but that's not a recommendation. So anyway, we'll catch up later and I'll see you in Dallas.